All right, welcome everybody. This is module 10 on storyboarding. We have kind of slowed down the pace a little, so it might not match the portal exactly. But we are excited to kind of go over this with you. This is a really important step as you move closer to your prototypes, which moves you closer to your MVPs, which is your minimum viable products. So the agenda for tonight, RJ, if you don't mind. Is that we're going to meet Shonna in just a minute. We are going to just go over some housekeeping, a few little things that we wanted to bring up, and then we're going to talk about prototyping and storyboards. And then we are going to spend the last portion of our time together tonight catching up on assignments, just having kind of a work session. After this, we will be rapidly progressing forward with different, with your prototypes, and then with the second half of the course. And the second half of the course features a bunch of speakers, and you get the chance to set up meetings with them, one-on-ones with them. So it is going to be a lot of information really quickly. And so we want to make sure that we give you some time today to really catch up and to focus in before it speeds up even more. All right. It does look like we might have a little bit of a skeleton crew tonight. Not sure what's going on. I know a couple people are sick, but we will persevere. So in terms of assignments, you all should have received an email earlier today from me that compiles your assignments so far. So if you could review that, that would be wonderful. And then you're going to email and then submit them, any missing or updated assignments to me. And the reason we did this for a couple different reasons. I wanted you to see what we had. I know that in class, you guys have been doing a great job working on your assignments, but sometimes I don't get to see the latest version because you go back and you add two things. So we just really wanted to give you an opportunity to submit those latest pieces. With that, we are going to be compiling all of it to give to the developer when it's time to work on your MVP. So we want to make sure we're all on the same page. You will not get to work with the developer until you submit your prototypes. So that will be the assignment for next week, is to work on prototyping. But we do have Shonna here with us to just introduce herself. She will be the developer working with most of you. Shonna, would you like to just say a little hello? And
I would. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm Shonna. Shonna Smith. I am, let me give my quick bio. I started my career with IBM 25 years ago as a junior developer. So fast forward 25 years later, my oldest skill set is as a web developer. But what I am now is I'm a product manager and a business owner, just like you all. So everything you're learning to do, all the struggles you're going through, I have been there. I've started 3 businesses in the past 10 years. Product management for me covers a lot of the things you all are already learning right now, like storyboarding and some of the things I just saw Katie go through. I usually do that with clients. So I am happy that I get to join you as you have already done that. So I'm here tonight so I can kind of get folded in. My work is as a developer, when I put on my developer hat, is heavily informed by what you're doing now, doing the things that I would have done with you if I were your product manager working with you earlier. But I'm glad Katie got you all covered with that. So I'm going to do my best to jump in, review your assignments. And as she has said, I really can't begin if I don't see stuff up to a certain state. And I'll work with Katie to kind of get acclimated and figure out where everyone is and how I how I fold in my developer skill set to help you all get an MVP done. And making MVPs has been my specialty for the last decade. In terms of making software, that is just what I have done a lot of in my career. I've worked with a lot of startup businesses. So lately, I pretty much primarily do startup consulting for a living. That's what my business focuses on. So nice to meet you all, sort of. So you know me, but I don't know you, but I imagine tonight I'll get a chance to know more of you.
We actually have some things lined up so that you'll get a better sense of people pretty quickly. So thank you so much for kind of giving us your background and how you fit into the puzzle of edit. Very excited to have you on board. And I hope you guys realize that these assignments, when you hear that these assignments really are real, that they will be incorporated into what you are doing and what will go out to your customers. So really, when you take the time to review those assignments, go ahead and really update them so they are done excellently so that we have a great base to move forward on. And I know that, like, maybe when the assignment first came around, it was a whole new concept and a lot of information at the time, but as you've learned more, you can go and have, done your interviews and, just gathered more information, you can make those assignments stronger for the developer and that process. So, all right. So we will be sending out through email the booking link for check-in number 2 soon. And that will be with, hang on just a second. Sorry, guys. Paul is texting me. Okay, so Paul will join us around 7 tonight. But we will be emailing you the booking link, and it will actually be a group of us. It will probably be me, RJ, Wanda, and Shonna. And so you will get a big piece of the team all at once. And we want to just make sure that we're all on the same page and really just hearing what you're thinking after you've gone through this huge process of exploration and gathering information and ideating and everything else. So please keep an eye out for that email. All right. So we are going to, RJ, do you mind going to the next slide, please? Okay. So I know that some it actually might not really be that possible tonight because of various situations. But we're going to try as many people as we can. We're going to do the exercise that we've done before. This time we are incorporating your solution. So you have 20 seconds to say your name, the problem your business is trying to solve, who you're trying to solve the problem for, and your solution. Let's see. Skylar, are you able to go first?
Yeah, I can go first.
Great, thank you.
Sorry. So hi, my name is Skylar, and the problem that my business is trying to solve is overcaffeination within the daily market. So trying to make an alternative to caffeine through a nootropics food product.
Great, thank you. RJ, I'm sorry I didn't ask if you were ready with the timer first. I just kind of assumed you're always on the ball on the house.
Yes, I got it. She did 14 seconds.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much, Skylar.
Job,
Linda, are we able to hear you now, or is your audio? Nope. Okay, well. I can't read it. I love the effort and the solution, but we can't see it. So, All right. Diana, are you able to go next? All right. Jatara is only able to listen in. Renard, are you only able to listen in? I know you are multitasking.
Yes, sort of, kind of. Yes, ma'am. Well,
Okay. Can anyone else go? This is a very odd night, Shona, for us.
It's never like this, promise.
We've had technology issues before, but usually not all of our participants are silent. Okay, well then, thank you, Skylar, for being our lone person. We were going to go ahead and do another exercise where we were going to go over your user scenarios. RJ, would you mind going to the next one? So we were going to do 1 minute or less. Tell us your user scenario, who their user is, the task or goal that they're trying to accomplish, or the inciting incident, the struggle, the point of friction that they're experiencing, how the user discovers your solution, then the climax, what your solution is and why it's the best solution, and then the resolution, like the final change that was made. So, Skylar, would you be willing to do this for us since you are our only speaking participant? Or would you like us to move on to the next slide?
So I'm not even gonna lie, this is something that I'm still trying to figure out because I've been doing a lot of interviews recently in order to further gauge. And I actually had a meeting this week that I saw a food product that basically had all of what I wanted to do, but in a beverage form with the
Ooh.
exact same name as my food product that I was proposing. So I was very, I guess, heartbroken a little bit this week, seeing that I might
we're
be a little
encouraged
bit
that
too
somebody
late
had a
to the
great idea
market.
also.
Yes, that it's good to see that um that it's on trend and like this is where the market's going, but it was a little heartbreaking to see that it was kind of I might be too late. So I'm still kind of figuring out like what my user experience is. Um Even based off of interviews, they say that like maybe the gum format might not be the ideal because like they hate gum. So it's very like 50-50 when I talk to people about the gum idea. So I'm still I guess trying to gauge it.
Skylar,
Oh, go ahead, Sean.
so it's just a quick little adage so that you maintain hope and understand that there's still opportunity. So, sort of, I don't remember the exact year, but say like before like 1985, did you know that there was no such thing as like a zesty pickle? So there's a regular kosher dill, used to get them in a white 5-gallon bucket, used to call them deli pickles. And before that, there's all these people like, well, pickles are bland. Well, a guy said, well, we're going to make some zesty pickles, like these hearty garlic ones. And they sort of revamped the pickle. And that's almost 50% of the sales are now zesty pickles. So the modality the modality can be different. The nuanceness of a similar product still can get significant market share. So I just wanted to give you like a rah. There's the situations where you can't drink a beverage.
Yeah. No, I
right?
do. And I do appreciate the encouragement. I guess
you want to go on a plane, you spend $5 before security. You got to throw that bottle of water out, but you still want to have your focus and everything like that. They don't make you throw your gum out.
That's true.
Yeah, Skylar, and a lot of the people that you've been focused on are like rock climbers or people who bike and more of like your adventure enthusiasts. And those people, they're usually on the go. So it might be a better modality to have it be a gum. So I wouldn't give up hope by any means. I think that it just shows that there's a market need for something in that vein.
Yeah,
And
it was like I saw Mars Wrigley come out with a focus gum as of 2 weeks ago. So that's more of like my other big concern was like, oh, so the big player also has now the same kind of thing. So it's more of like the only thing I bring that was more novel to the table would be a natural gum base, which is still very interesting. It's just trying to figure out if people would be willing to pay
so we
or
will
pay more
talk
for
more
that.
during, yeah, we'll talk more. But thank you for sharing all that. And I would definitely not give up hope. There are many reasons to not give up hope. So
I'm still going. I just wanted, I guess I wanted to share that because that changed a lot of, I guess my priorities and stuff like that.
yep. And I noticed that you didn't say in your introduction that you were doing gum. So I was wondering if there was potentially a pivot or something that you were considering. So yes, we will talk more. Thank you for sharing. We're not going to do the user scenario just because it seems like a lot of people are only able to listen in today. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of continue on with the presentation, and we will. So this slide should be very familiar. You saw this slide last time when we talked about user scenarios. And so this was the story, you know, that arc, the kind of the struggle. You set up who the person is, what their motivations are, then you go into kind of their struggle, what they're trying to accomplish, then they have that crisis and the resolution, and then you start to you tie everything up at the end. So you have that end change, like how their situation has changed and resolved itself at the end. So what we're going to do with storyboarding is we're going to take the verbal journey that we used in our user scenarios, and we're going to turn it into a picture-based journey. So that kind of like a comic, but it's going to illustrate what goes on during this arc, but it will be in picture form. So if you want to go to the next slide. So we are really starting to get into prototype with these. And the reason why storyboards can be considered a prototype is because you can show them to your users and they can really see if it resonates with them, where they fit in with it. They can start to give you suggestions, tell you things that they might like to see in there, things that might not work for them. So it's a really good way to, without spending a bunch of money, get some feedback. And it starts to really bring things together. You can add so much in a picture that sometimes you can't in words, or it takes a lot of words to do it. If everyone can think of, you know, kind of those long books, the 1,000-page books that then turn into a movie that's like a 90-minute movie. And it's not that there's less information, it's that pictures and different media can really show you a lot of information. So we're going to talk in the next few slides about really how, you know, different types of prototypes beyond just storyboarding, and also the different components of storyboarding. So, but this is that we are moving into the prototype stage. We're kind of leaving behind ideate, before that define and empathize, but we do want to carry that with us. We want those pieces, the knowledge that we've learned, the things that we've come up with, the solutions, we want to see that in the prototype phase. So don't feel like this is just throwing everything away. We are making sure to incorporate it all. And also, prototypes are built so that designers can think about their solutions in a different way. It's a tangible product rather than abstract ideas. So one of the things we want to do with those is we want to fail quickly and cheaply. It's really important, quickly and cheaply, so that less time and money is invested in an idea that might turn out to be a bad one. So prototypes, it is okay. It is actually a success if it doesn't work, because you've learned and you haven't sunk a ton of money and a ton of time into it. And so prototypes really should be, we talk about failing fast. And this is where prototypes are really good. We learn so much. So here we go. Here's a quote by Tim Brown. They slow us down to speed us up. By taking time to prototype our ideas, we avoid costly mistakes, such as becoming too complex too early and sticking with a weak idea for too long. So Shonna can probably tell us all about times where people have dumped a ton of energy and thought into something and building out all these little pieces. And I've seen it over and over. You build out all these things and you fail to talk to your customer. You fail to show them the basic, the simple idea. And then, but you put your like heart and soul into all these tiny details. And then what happens is that sometimes you can miss the mark. And when you miss the mark, you've invested all that time and energy and care, then it's really honestly devastating for people. It's a lot of just wasted effort, capital, and everything else. So we want you to be able to slow down, make these prototypes. And like I said, we're going to go into the different kinds of prototypes that there are, so that you can avoid that, so that you can make sure that the base idea, the simple idea of your solutions are going to work. Before you put a ton of time and effort into detailing them out. All right, so there's two types of prototyping. There's low fidelity prototyping and high fidelity prototyping. So low fidelity prototyping involves the use of basic models as examples of the product being tested. For example, the model might be incomplete and utilize just a few of the features that will be available in the final design, or it might be constructed using materials that are not intended for the finished product, such as wood, paper, metal, or plastic. So some examples of this are storyboarding, sketching, card sorting, Wizard of Oz, which Wizard of Oz is kind of like when you have, it can be used in where basically it's the man behind the curtain. So instead of the technology actually doing it, there's a person kind of hidden that's moving things along as the technology would, but it saves you from having to build the technology and the functionality at that stage. So that's what Wizard of Oz prototyping can mean. So then we have high fidelity prototyping. And these are prototypes that look and operate much closer to the finished product. So low fidelity prototyping can be, cardboard. It can be, like, let's say your technology is a robot or whatever. It could be just like something very simple. It doesn't have to be made of the materials that it will finally be made of. It can be very rudimentary. Storyboarding is one of the ways, and it allows us to get that information. So, all right, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so the pros of low fidelity prototyping. It's quick and inexpensive. It's possible to make instant changes and test new iterations. It's just, you can dispose of it and throw it away, right? It's not going to break your heart when your cardboard or whatever, or your little drawing gets tossed aside. But if you sink a ton of money into a high fidelity prototype or into the final, something that you think is final, and it doesn't work out, that that will probably be a devastating moment if you have to throw it away. So it's really great to have these low fidelity prototypes. It enables the designer to gain an overall view of the product using minimal time and effort, as opposed to focusing on the finer details over the course of slow incremental changes. And so, you know, that just, like we've been saying, you can get it out quickly and easily and get that feedback, rather than really like the painstaking development that's required often without any feedback and just doing it kind of in the dark. So low fidelity prototyping is also available to everyone, regardless of ability and experience. We're able to produce a rudimentary version of products in order to test users or canvass the opinions of stakeholders. It encourages and fosters design thinking. So there's lots of pros. There's also some cons. So we can talk about those. So obviously there's an inherent lack of realism. If you're trying to design a robot and you've got something made out of cardboard boxes, clearly it's lacking some realism there. And due to the basic and sometimes sketchy nature of low fidelity prototypes, the applicability of results generated by tests involving simple early versions of the product may lack validity. So if someone says, I don't like your cardboard box robot, that could be because they don't like the idea of what you're doing, or it could be that they're turned off by a cardboard box robot. So there's some risk there. Depending on your product, the production of low fidelity prototypes may not be appropriate for your intended user. For instance, if you're developing a product bound by a number of contextual constraints and or dispositional constraints, so that would be like physical characteristics of your user base, such as users with disabilities, then basic versions that don't really reflect the nature and appearance of the finished product may be of very little use. It may be very hard to tell. So it might really not give you too much insight into that user experience or the value of your idea. Does that make sense to everyone, that last point? So if you have like a drawing of stick figures and it's for someone who has accessibility issues, it might not be the best way to test if that's actually going to be something that's a productive and good solution for them. It might just be too rudimentary to really get that feedback. So, all right. And then these kind of prototypes also can remove the control from the user, since they have to be interacted with in a really simple way. So if it's a storyboard, you know, you're interacting with it by reading it, but you're not interacting with like all the, you know, the little pieces of it. It's not that full experience. So there are some cons involved. All right, so the guidelines for prototyping. Just start building. So we want action. We want to just start creating. It's important to remember that prototypes are supposed to be quick and easy. And they're supposed to test the design solutions. Yeah, the best bet if you're uncertain is just to start creating things, start putting stuff out there and start really seeing how well it does. So we want you to just gain those insights from putting out ideas, putting out solutions and seeing how they do. So, so definitely start building, start acting. And one of my favorite entrepreneurship quotes is, you can't drive a parked car. And I really like it because a lot of times you don't have the information that you need to get somewhere unless you're going. You have to start that process. And so don't be afraid to actually start building, start trying things. We don't want you to spend too much time fast. It's all about speed. But you also have to remember what you're testing for. So they should have a central testing issue. And you don't want to lose sight of that issue. But at the same time, even though you don't want to lose sight of it, you don't want to miss other lessons that you could be learning. So you want to make sure to listen, but do kind of keep a central testing issue in mind. Absolutely. This goes back to all that empathy and all the things that we've done. Build with the user in mind. It's really important to keep them at the forefront of your prototypes. So test the prototype against your expected user behavior and user needs. So show it to them, test it, see if it does fall into, if those expected user behaviors do play out and if their needs are met. Even in these low fidelity prototypes, you can do a lot of that. They are really powerful tools for us. All right. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is Lion King. I'm sure most of you have seen Lion King. This is just an example of kind of how a story can say so much, and how pictures can really, really just tell that story with simple captions. So, so we have Pumbaa and Timon. Somebody help me. What's his name? Timon, right? Okay, so they walk in, they're like, Mufasa, they're looking for him, and then they're like, they look up, and there's Scar and all the hyenas, and they're like, you're not Mufasa. So, like, take a moment to just look at his facial expression, and that's telling us a lot right there. That's telling us something that a lot of words would have to be in place for us to learn that same thing that we can see instantly in a picture. And then you have Scar, must die, forever be reminded of this. So, you know, obviously Scar wants to, if you guys have seen The Lion King, clearly I have, he does not want to be reminded of Mufasa at every turn. He wants to be his own person. And so once again, he's getting reminded, and he's like kind of put out by it. Like if you see his face there, he's like, oh, must I? And then the hyenas start talking, and they say, I smell revenge. Can someone kind of tell me what you think their faces are like? Are they, when they say I smell revenge, are they like excited by this, or are they like, what's the feeling you get from the pictures?
When I see the I smell, I think they are enthusiastic and more of just like opportunistic, I guess, almost like given in the context.
Yep, I would agree with that. And then poor little Pumbaa and Timon at the end, how do they feel?
Looks frightened, like
Yeah.
very much the stereotypical, like I don't know if you guys ever watched that show, Courage the Cowardly Dog, but they would do like that in almost every single episode in order to like depict fear. It's just like your hair standing up.
Yep. So keep this in mind when we're going to continue to break down storyboarding, and then you guys are going to have a go at it. But you want these really kind of expressive pieces of your storyboard. You want your pictures to contain a lot of information. So pictures, they say pictures are worth 1,000 words. So illustrating things works best for understanding of any concept or idea. Images can obviously speak much more powerfully than just by words because it adds those extra layers of meaning. They say that stories are 22 times more memorable than plain facts. So, and we can really, when you see stories and when you just hear a story too, you can really empathize with the characters. It allows us to empathize in a way that maybe we couldn't otherwise, just through facts. So, and then engagement stories really capture your attention. We are hardwired to respond to stories, and our curiosity draws us into them. So it's a really good way to kind of capture your attention and get a point across really quickly. All right, let's go on to the next one, RJ. So as you guys can have probably gathered by now, storyboards are based on a scenario or a user story. Each step in that scenario is represented visually in sequence. So those steps in the arch, those are in the scenario, in the different visual representation. Each visual has a corresponding caption. The visualization can explain a scenario better than words and has no language barrier. Visualizing creates more engagement and curiosity in the humans to make understanding of what happens next or what's going to happen next. So we all know that when we watch a story or hear a story, you know, there's a cliffhanger that we all hate when it's at the end of a book and there's not the next book, because we want to know what's going to happen next. And a lot of times we anticipate what's going to happen next. And those can be useful reactions, really, when looking at when you have your customers or potential customers look at your storyboards, because they're going to be anticipating, so they might start thinking of things that will be helpful to you. So all right, let's see, let's go on to the next slide, please, RJ. So storyboards describe how we think we're going to improve the customer or user's life. They answer the pivotal question, is our proposition really better at delivering on this problem than the current alternatives? And we've talked about this second point many, many times, that people find solutions. You know, last time we talked about if you have a tag and you don't have scissors around and you need to get that tag off, what do we do? And we all do something different. So it's, you know, there are different solutions that are out there. People will find, where there's a will, there's a way. People find solutions, but you need to make sure that you are really delivering the best solution. And so having a storyboard will let you show it and really continue that conversation about, is your solution really better at delivering on the problem than the current alternatives that are out there? All right, so then we have this thing, and this is an example of an app, and I'm gonna okay, so I'm gonna read it for those of you who can't see it. So Jen makes her weekly stop at the grocery store. So there she is. She's Jen. She doesn't have hair. Her body is a little star body. This is not, you know, a fine piece of artwork. This is a fun little thing that gets the point across. So 2, she checks out and picks up her receipt. And then 3, so you'll see here we have this like a little box, and it has her looking at her receipt. And this was crossed out. Sometimes in the beginning, you might put a bunch of pictures and then realize that one of the pictures is kind of redundant and not necessary and not critical to telling the story. And you can take that out. You can cut. But you want to keep those key pieces that tell the story. So that one looks like it got cut. It's got red on it. Okay, so 3. She loads her groceries into her cart and then takes out her smartphone and takes a picture of the receipt when finished. Oops. Okay, so here we go. She has purchases. She puts apples, spinach, and then she has mascara, and she goes, this is not food. So she's able to delete it from the app so that it only is doing food. So it says 4. The food management app scans the receipt and makes it editable. As she is only tracking food expenses, she can delete mascara from her list. Doing so will update her total. So I was able to get the fact that she was deleting that mascara because it wasn't food from the picture itself. Without even reading the caption, we were able to understand that. All right, so 5, we've got little Star Jen at home, and she goes, yikes, the spinach is gone. So that's clearly gone bad. So 5 says, unfortunately, Jen does not get around to eating her spinach, so she has to throw it out. She quickly opens up her app and deletes spinach so she can track her food waste. And then 7, here she can see how much money she has lost as a result of throwing away food. So it's tracking that money lost. And then 8, Jen can track her weekly consumption versus waste and improve her habits accordingly. Yay, I did much better this week, says, little Star Jen with her dollar bills. Okay. So this is a kind of well, let's stick on that example, RJ, for a minute longer. So who can see themselves in Jen's position? Like, obviously you're not shaped like a star, but who can relate to Jen and her predicament of throwing away food, having not used it, or having...
I have that a lot. I find myself with like plenty of I also like food scraps. Like sometimes you like use an onion and then you've got like 3 layers and you didn't realize that there was like a moldy spot, so you have to get rid of like 4 layers of the onion to then use like the heart of it. So
Yep. Anyone else see themselves sort of in Jen's? Paul, what about you? Can you see yourself as Jen at the grocery store and wanting to track your food, or is this not you? This is not part of your life.
Yeah, no, it's not me yet.
All right. But that's an important thing we just learned something. We learned very rapidly that that Paul is not a user of this kind of an app, that this benefit, that he doesn't see himself in this scenario, but Skylar does. That's important information for us. That helps us to know how to continue the conversation. So Skylar, is there something else that like when you read this, is there something else that you would like to see or app?
did she just cut out for everyone else? Because I did not hear what just happened.
Yeah, you
You
froze
cut
for a second.
cut out, Katie.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you either.
Am I here now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know where I cut out. That's the problem with cutting out.
You were gonna ask me a question.
I was going to ask you, or I did ask you, you just didn't hear it.
Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. If looking through this, if there's a feature that you would like to see or something that you don't think would work for you, like what's your reaction to this app?
I guess just like maybe like units of it. Like maybe I was able to use half of my onion. I guess my example, like I'm able to use half of it, but I didn't throw away like the whole onion. So maybe having some sort of like picture conversion so that I didn't have to use like a scale at home in order to like have the amount of waste, but instead the app was able to kind of gauge how much food waste I produced and then equate that to dollars based on like, I guess the local rate of the produce around my area.
All right. Yeah. When I buy food, a lot of times I overbuy in terms of quantity. So like I'll buy a big thing of grapes and then maybe I eat half the grapes. It's not necessarily that I guess it's that it's wasted, but yeah, it would be nice for me to be able to judge. I think this is what you're saying, Skylar, the amount that was used so I can better predict in the future and get the correct amount for myself. It's a little different than what you were saying, but
No, but that's still like, it's still conscious eating, I guess, and figuring out like, I guess Jen and like slide 8, just being happy that she saved money because she didn't spend it on the things that she wasn't going to eat or something like that.
yeah. So this could be shown to somebody in a like checkout line at a grocery store. If you're having a 5-minute conversation with them, you can show this little cartoony thing to them and you can get the idea across and you can start to get feedback. You can start to hear what else they might want to see, what wouldn't work for them if they're not your user at all. If you're like Paul here and it doesn't work for you. So all this is really important information that we can then use as we continue to build different and better prototypes that gain more fidelity. But finding out this information early is really useful. All right, next slide, please. All right. So here's another one, and this is basically to show you a different kind of style. So if you want to do before and after, if that's how you can more easily convey the benefit of what you're doing, is doing a series of before pictures and then a series of after pictures. That's another option for a storyboard. So this one is about an HR and like some HR situation. So all right, so here's our little HR lady and she goes, and this is the before. It says here, Linux sysadmin. I'm sorry, I don't know. That could be, I could totally.
It's a computer language.
Okay. Yep. And I really want a job. And then he says, HR in your resume say, the hiring person says HR in your resume say, Linux. And they're like, yep, I know it. And then the hiring person says, okay, I'm super busy. You're hired. Please start immediately. And then this last scene is basically, I'm going to summarize the person and the job being lost and not knowing what things are. So clearly they did not know the programming language that they said that they were supposed to know, which is a problem. So before they've set out this like situation that's common and that there is a clear problem. You've hired someone, you're too busy to really research what they're saying, and you've hired someone who can't get the job done. So the after is you scored 10% on your Linux screener quiz. We need someone with more experience. So because of whatever tests they did, they were able to give them a number and say, hey, sorry, you're out the door. Like we're not using you. And so then the next person comes in and your resume says, this programming language. They go, yep. And they say, great, you're hired. So still very fast, right? Please start immediately. And then this person, because they've gone through that screening process and we assume that they scored higher on that test, knows what they're doing and is able to get the job done easily. Okay. So does that kind of before and after structure make sense to you guys? That you can just do it you can break it down in that way rather than just a story. So you can do the story, like the first one, or the before and after?
No, it makes sense. It kind of just shows like what their product would provide.
So, okay. So we are going to keep moving on. And, okay. So the storyboard structure is a visual representation of stories. So it should be logical, it should be understandable, and it should be convincing. If you just put a bunch of pictures out there that no one can understand, there is no point in doing this, right? So you need to make sure that you step outside of yourself when you're reviewing your pictures and your storyboards, and make sure that they make sense to someone else, that they're logical, they're sequential, that they're understandable, and that they're convincing. And so there are some essential elements here. So the character is the specific persona involved in your story. So you should look back at your user personas that you built. This is the person who should be walking through your storyboard. And then a scene, and this should be an environment that the character finds herself in, her or himself. And it should not be something wild and crazy and unrelated to your product, right? This should not be that like, oh, she's swimming at the beach and your product has to do with snow. You want it to make sense, and you want it to be in the environment that they're going to find the problem that then you're going to have the solution about. So it also needs a plot. So all too often, designers jump straight into explaining the details of their design without explaining the backstory. So for instance, for Diana, for her person who, you know, we don't want to show them with perfect hair. We want to probably show them with some like crazy hair, or like the time crunch on the clock. We want to get a feeling of the backstory, what led them there, that they're traveling, those sorts of things. Those are important aspects to build in to your storyboard. Don't just jump straight to the solution and straight to the end of it, because that really doesn't capture us in the same way, and it also doesn't let us understand the struggle and put ourselves in those shoes and give better feedback, and really explain the arc. So once again, you saw this before. This is the arc. So it should go up. There should be that rising action, climax, falling action, and then resolution. So think about it as a story. Think about it as something that's engaging, that captures people, that really builds and then falls to a resolution. All right. So powerful storyboards. Oh, sorry, RJ, you were supposed to, yep, there you go. I've got the slides on my screen too, so I'm doubled up here with slides. Okay, so can you go to the next one, RJ, please? Okay, so powerful storyboards are authentic. The character, their goal, and what happens to them is clear, and it's something that could actually happen to someone. It's, you know, Jen at the grocery store, having her, you know, or when she gets home, throwing away her spinach. That's something that could actually happen to someone. That's not just like some random thing. We can see that there's some authenticity in that experience. Simplicity, cut out any of the unnecessary extras. So we don't want to do a bunch. We want to keep it to the heart of the story, to the essence of the story. You don't want to be spending your time about like, you know, oh, Jen got home and fed her dog and then threw out her spinach. The dog doesn't matter. Like, that's not part of the story. That's not part of anything. Like, yes, maybe it's what Jen does. And maybe in your user persona, Jen has a dog, but that's not something that's necessary for the storyboard. So we want to keep it, we want the simplicity and the essence of what's going on and to focus on your solution, the problem and the solution. We want that emotion. We want to communicate the emotional state of your character throughout their experience. So remember little Pumbaa and Timon with the leg, back and their hairs up. We want to see that in your characters. And I don't care if you have stick figures, it can be like a really unhappy face, but we want the emotion to be in there. So please add emotion to your storyboard. It's a valuable piece of it. All right, RJ, if you could go to the next one. All right, so the main thing is to break up the story into moments. So you want the context, the trigger, the decisions that the character makes along the way, and you want it to end up with a benefit. So you're looking here to take that story and break it into pieces. So the first stage of your storyboarding will be looking at the story itself and then breaking it into these different pieces, because these pieces will be pictures at some point. So here, Tom lives alone. He's suffering from depression, having just lost his job. So that's the first piece. That's the context. Here's the trigger. Tom's friend Susan has noticed that something is wrong with Tom, but she's not sure how to reach out to him. Susan downloads the Heartline app onto her phone and adds Tom. That's the next little piece. So that's the next part of the story. That's a decision that she's making. Periodically, the app will remind Susan to check in on Tom. And then the final piece is Susan checks in with Tom and lets him know how much she cares about him. So that's the resolution. That's the benefit. All right, so we've broken it down into these pieces. And then the next step, so that's the first step, is taking your story and breaking it into these pieces, bite-sized pieces. The next step is putting the emotions next to it. So Tom lives alone. He's suffering from depression, having just lost his job. This is not a happy moment for Tom. This is not a happy moment even for Susan. This is not a good thing. So clearly we're going to put a very unhappy little face there. So we're adding these little things to get a feel for what's going on inside the character's head and illustrate their reactions to either success or pain points along the way. So Tom's friend Susan has noticed that something's wrong with Tom, but she's not sure how to reach out to him. That's not a good feeling either, right? Like when something's wrong with someone that you care about and you don't know what to do, no one's going to put a happy face next to this segment of the story either. This is not, nobody's happy on this one. All right, so then we go to our next one. Susan downloads Heartline app onto her phone and adds Tom. So this is kind of, she's starting to get hopeful. She's still not happy. There's not, the happiness hasn't really come in yet, but we're not at the very sad face anymore. So we're starting on that swing up. Periodically, the app reminds Susan to check in on Tom. There's not really an emotion with this one, kind of the same. And then Susan checks in with Tom and lets him know how much she cares about him. And hopefully, ideally, this makes both Tom and Susan happy. And so this is the resolution. So this is the story and the emotional arc of it as well. So that first step is breaking it down into the different segments and then adding the emotional journey on it. All right. Next slide, please. So then after you do that, the next step is to start putting it into picture form. So you can take this little frame and you can start putting in the different scenes. So you want to emphasize each moment and think about how your character is feeling about it. You can add a lot here. This can be a brain dump that then you clean up later, but put down the scenes that you're seeing in your mind and the emotions that go along with it. So you're going to start to really develop this in a picture form. RJ, can you go to the next slide, please? All right. So here's an example of this story in picture form. Now, we all know depression can look many, many different ways. So I'm not saying that this is accurate. This could be controversial even, but here Tom is, he's clearly not happy. He lives alone. He's suffering from depression, having just lost his job. He feels hopeless and alone. So we get this feeling from seeing Tom kind of huddled there that he is not a happy camper. And then here's Susan kind of talking to someone else. This is the next scene. And she's talking about Tom, poor little Tom in the background. He's very dejected looking. He's not happy. So Tom's friend Susan has noticed that something's wrong with Tom, but she's not sure how to reach out to him. So he's kind of in that distant background. She doesn't know what to do. So then we see her, she downloads the Heartline app onto her phone. So you see her actually with the app now. And then she adds Tom. So this is kind of going through some of the steps. The next one is then she adds some of Tom's other friends to help check in on him. And then the next picture, the next part of the story is periodically the app will remind Susan and the others to check in on Tom. And then it's going to go buzz while she's busy shopping. So this is an example of how it would remind her. And it says, check in with Tom. So there's a call button. And so it calls Tom, or little Tom. And Tom looks at his phone and it's ringing. And Susan checks in with Tom and lets him know how much she cares about him. Tom begins to feel less disconnected and alone. And then periodically, as Tom's friends are reminded, they check in on him, and Tom is reminded of his support system. So everyone's happy here. Okay. Did this make sense how it broke down that story? How it added pictures for the different pieces of the story? I'm very curious because when I'm looking at this, I have a reaction to this app. What is your reaction when you look at this storyboard? Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? How do you feel about this, the functionality of this app? Anybody?
This actually seems kind of like a crisis center. Like phone call, and I don't know. I feel like sometimes this might be good and other times this might be bad. Like it really depends on the individual person. Because I feel like my boyfriend actually volunteered for the suicide hotline. And so I would be present for some of the phone calls, and some people can get really, really angry because somebody told them that they needed to call as a checkup. Like this is a thing that real people do instead of an app, where they will call like, hey, we got a concerned phone call about you. Like we want to make sure that you're okay. And some people will respond really angry and they'll be like, who sent you? Like, why are they doing this? Like, who do you think you are, like calling me and doing all of this? And then other people respond, I guess, how Tom responds, and they're like very happy that somebody reached out. So I think it's very personality specific.
Yep. I would agree with that, Skylar. I think that if I were in this situation, my concern would be adding other people. You know, that feels kind of like a violation of privacy to add a bunch of other people to check in on it. Like, personally, like if I was having a bad day or whatever, and someone decided to tell everyone else, I don't think I'd like that. So, you know, not that I'm like Tom here in his little huddled state, but you know, the thing about these prototypes and these storyboards is we can start to see what our reactions to them are. If we think certain features are good, if we think certain things are bad, we can see the heart of it and respond to the core pieces of the solution before having to build the app. We've never built this app. We haven't done anything other than draw some pictures. And if something doesn't fly with our users, if they do not like this, we can throw it away and come up with some new features or some new ideas. And that is the beauty of low fidelity prototypes, is that you can quickly and easily move on and move to something better and come up with new ideas. All right. So once again, we have that story arc. All right. Now you can go to the next one, RJ. Seen that slide a bunch. Okay, so if we want to kind of break this down into how do we start really drawing it, or how do we start approaching it, is we can make the rectangles. And then we kind of think about, well, what's the setting for this rectangle? And then we put in the stick figure. And it can be a little star person like Jim. It could be a little stick figure. If you're a better drawer, it can be a better picture. I would say even if you're like a fancy artist, don't go crazy. Don't give them freckles. Don't give them all the different things unless it's pertinent to your story. You want to just keep with the main pieces of it. Show the pieces that show emotion that are pertinent to the problem and the solution. So keep the details really relevant. Then after you put in your little stick figures, you can add your speech and your thoughts, and then those tools that they might be using. So these are that's the order that you want to approach it. So build out those little boxes, pick a scene, setting, stick figure, speech, thought, tools. All right, and I'm sure you guys all saw this coming. Now is going to be your time, but really quickly, I wanted, Shonna, it sounds like you have some examples of some storyboarding.
Yeah, I have, if you don't mind, I want to connect the dots between what you're producing and how that translates, and there's a blurred line between what you're doing and what I need to do. So
Yep. Let's
paint the picture of why this is so relevant. So I wanted to show you all a different type of story mapping and prototyping that I would do if I had a client that came to me and said, hey, I want to make an app. And I would walk through the same process, very similar to Katie, but at a certain point, I would diverge a little. After you've done the illustrative, like the narrative storyboards that you're going to do tonight with her, I take something like that and turn it into, hold on, I need to share. I need screen sharing.
Okay.
Oh, I do have it. Never mind. Okay, so can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so just as Katie has mentioned, there's different ways to prototype, different ways to storyboard. She just walked you through a storyboarding narrative that's very illustration driven. And I tend to take something like that and turn it into something simple, or I'll start with simple and work my way up to some illustrations. So I'm showing you an example right now. I just do text. And I think Katie showed you all an example of how you can start out with mapping out a journey. And I start with text, and I start with a flow, like a narrative flow of, it kind of reads like you're talking to a 3-year-old or like a kindergartner. So this is an app that I created for a client, and the app lets teachers, like experienced, seasoned veteran teachers coach new teachers. So a little bit like the example you just showed, Katie, an app that helps people help people. Along those same lines, that's what this app does. It lets a teacher reach out to someone more experienced for advice. So the first story I usually like to start a client out with when I'm mapping is something very simple and relatable. It's boring, but I start here because it's relatable. Creating an account. It's a boring story to map, but it's relatable. We have all used apps before. And what's common with all of them? To get started, you have to create an account. So if I'm a teacher, and let's say I'm a veteran teacher, that's what this story is for. I want to mentor and I want to coach on this app. So this is the way I would map out a mentor coach journey of just creating their account. Well, what do they do first? They go to the account page. What do they do next? So this is why I say it sounds like talking to a kindergarten. What do they do next? And then what do they do next? And what do they do next? It's a step-by-step narrative flow of just and then. They go to a page, they enter some things, a name, an email, or whatever. At some point, there's what I call the point of satisfaction. You have done mapping the story when they have reached the point of satisfaction. The account being created is the point of satisfaction. Like that final step, you click that button that says submit or whatever it is at that final step. Your account is created, and what usually happens after that, what do you get? Like email confirmations, like y'all kind of get the gist of what it means to create an account on an app. It's the similar journey on most apps. So I tend to take, once you've done your narrative in illustration format, I'm stripping out information like this. This is why it's very important. What Katie is showing you tonight, and I'm showing you how I connect what she's going to have you do tonight. How that connects to my work is I start thinking like this, step by step per user type. So this is just the mentor coach. This is not the new teacher journey. Their journey to create an account is a little different. It's simpler. And within the context of this app, what's the difference with creating accounts? A mentor and a coach for this founder, that mentor and that coach has the option to monetize the use of their time when they coach. So creating an account for them needs another step. If you're going to monetize your time, you probably have to have a point where you create your account where you add how you're going to get paid. You got to add your Cash App, your Venmo. You got to add PayPal, or whatever your preferred payment method. That's a part of your journey for creating an account. Whereas if I'm a teacher joining, I don't need that in my journey for creating an account. You just need to know who I am, what I teach. I teach math. I teach 6th grade. Like my journey for creating my account is different. Do y'all get the difference of why it's so important to be very specific with the scenario and who, like which persona are you creating this journey for? If you can't get that specific, we can't go any further. I'm going to scroll. The finished product for me, if I were creating a clickable prototype, this is how those screens will look. I would start to do a prototype to show you visually what that journey could look like once we add branding and color and, cute stuff, basically. This is the finished product. But I can't get here until we do the simple things. So we got to crawl before we run.
Yep. And so, yeah, and this is exactly, we're going to make them break it down even further as we keep going next week. And you're going to go through step by step, and you're going to make a low fidelity example of how you do that, account creation and all those sorts of things. And so that's awesome. Thank you so much for showing us all that. This week, I do want you for this storyboard to focus on that overall, what the problem is, what your solution is, so that you can get feedback about the core ideas that then we will break down further as those individual steps. So, because we need to make sure that we've got the right user, as Shonna said. We need to make sure that we know what they're trying to do. We need to make sure that we're even doing the right thing by them and for them. Because if we have them create an account but they want to be anonymous. And that's that's like a requirement for someone. It's good to have the base functionality and the essence of it in that storyboard. And then we'll break it down into those pieces. And we will be really specific, because without that level of specificity, first, you can't talk to Shonna because you won't be ready yet. So we are going to require you guys to think through that level of specificity before you get access to her. So with that, we are going to go into breakout rooms, and we're going to actually, let's just, because most people can't talk tonight. Let's just keep everyone in this room. I want to spend the next 15 minutes working on a storyboard. And remember, this should be fast. This should be the essence. So these should be stick figures. I don't want to, in 15 minutes, I don't want to see that you're still like working on the nose of your little stick figure. You want to get the story in there. So be fast and put the story out there. You guys already did your user scenarios on Monday. So you should have a base for your story already, that rise and fall. Use that in 15 minutes. So 8:05. I'm going to ask you guys to hold it up. So even those of you who can't talk tonight, we can still see it and we can just get a sense of it. And then for the last little bit of the class, we will be working, it'll just be a workshop time where we're working on getting. So, okay. So start your storyboarding. There are apps and things out there that you could use, but I want you just to focus on just doing it on paper today. So find a piece of paper, find a napkin, and you have until 8:05 to start your storyboarding. I do want to tell you guys about one company that I think they have this technology that, I don't know if you guys know what nematodes are. They're these little pests in agricultural.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm not surprised that you do, Skylar. And so there's this company out there that releases pheromones. Who knows what pheromones are?
I do.
So pheromones can they're like the I don't know, how do I
It's like
describe?
a natural chemical which you release, but in really small dosages that can be signals to other neighboring animals. So like cats have pheromones when they're in heat, or other different types of signaling in order to indicate reproduction, or like the reason why we have BO, like all of these kinds of things can be different levels of pheromones.
Thank you, Skylar. Yes. So, okay. So their technology was a technology that released pheromones that made the nematodes then react in a way, either clumping or unclumping, in order to help pest control for agricultural fields. Right? Okay. So how many words have we just used to describe this? A whole lot of them. They did this drawing on a napkin. It was like one side of the napkin is like these very unhappy dying plants, right? And the nematodes are all over them. And then the other one, the after picture, is they've released the stuff and they've all like, whoo, come together into the middle, and all the plants are happy and living healthy lives because they're not being eaten anymore or lived in or whatever. So it's a very simple way of showing the benefits, the like healthy plants in the field, and what the technology is doing without having to use all the words and describe everything. And it's something that a kindergartner could see the picture and kind of get an idea. Oh, the bad things aren't all over the plants. They've now clumped up in the middle. And you don't have to explain what pheromones are or nematodes or anything else. So pictures can be really powerful tools for telling those, complex things very simply. That is, all right, I'm done talking so you guys can concentrate. 10 minutes of Katie silence, unless you guys have questions. Paul, you're doing me in with the yawns. I'm like sitting over here yawning away because I'm looking at you.
The illustrations are getting there. We'll get it there. We'll be good.
I'm excited to see him. All right, we've got our first share. We've got Linda. There's a hurricane. And the ocean comes and it blows the roof off. And the house falls. Does the house fall over, Linda? It certainly looks like it's getting destroyed. And then, oh, Linda can't talk. Linda can't talk, but this is a great example of why storyboarding is wonderful, because Linda can't talk tonight because her audio is not working. So then there's the hurricane, and with the house on cement block, and the big waves just go right on under, and the roof does not fly off, and the wind goes over the top and under the bottom, and people keep their houses. Excellent job, Linda. That's great. That was a great example of a before and after and the benefit of your technology. Anybody else ready to share? So Reynard, I see that you said you emailed, but I'm just seeing the, oh, never mind. I see it now. Hang on. All right, Reynard, I saw yours. Excellent little stick figures here. With a smiley face and oh, we got Paul's too. Okay, Paul, here we go. You want to come off mute and read us the captions?
Yeah, let's do it. So I got it's a student, it's a child talking to his mother. Mom, I just don't get math. What are you not understanding? My teacher just does it.
We see the
Huh?
pictures like as you for each scene as you go.
Gotcha, yeah.
Okay, let's see. So, Mom, I don't get math. What are you not understanding?
Here.
Okay.
And then my teacher just doesn't make math understandable. He's boring. And he doesn't have us have fun. What do you need for me to do? Wait, sorry. What do you need instead? How can I help you, son? I'll be fine. I'll just YouTube my homework again. I just wish I had a teacher that could explain things that I can understand and also have fun. So then the mother's like on Facebook or something, sees his ad, and it's supposed to be advertising myself. And then she goes, I think my son will like Mr. Jackson. So she shares to him, hey, son, I just met this incredible man named Mr. Jackson. He's a former D1 athlete and a math teacher here in Miami. What did I put right here? He started a business teaching students math and mentorship. Wait, he played football with Jonathan Taylor? Yeah, I want to meet him. I don't know. I just try to be a little fun with it. But yeah.
Awesome. So what I love that you have how they enter like what the problem was. You got like the struggle and the context. You have in there that that how they found like how they came across your solution. So it's a realistic story, right? We said to make it realistic. So and you also like kept it to the details that were pertinent. So like we didn't hear about what they had for dinner. We didn't hear about you know, like you kept it to the heart of the story. And then they find you and things about you that they love. I would say the one thing that I feel like could be better in here is more about your teaching style and how that's different in that solution, like continue in that solution area zone to build that out a little bit. Like, are they watching it on, are they watching you on YouTube? Are they going to a website? Like how, like keep going a little bit on the solution portion so that we get a sense of a few of the key parts of what like the features that you're offering that make it fun.
Okay.
Other than just you. I mean, we know you're fun. And I love that. I love that that's in there, but we need more.
Okay. Yeah. Just what's my own fine niche. Okay.
All right. Who else? I think Dr. Wanda just texted that she is like curious to hear how it's going. And I told her to come join and see the storyboards. So she might be popping on in a second. And if she does, I will have you guys show your stuff. Skylar, can I see your, how are you doing with yours?
Yeah, so I'm still working on mine, but after seeing Paul's, I don't think I can one up it. So this is my version right now. I made it like kind of like how you do um more the pictograph style.
Okay.
And so I was doing the alternative version where you do like one and then the other. Okay. So
Like the
the
before
first,
and after?
yeah, like well, more of like two different lifestyles, I guess,
Okay.
to like compare. So kind of like the second example you had.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was like I'm buying a cup of coffee. It cost me $5. And then it results in like a lot of trash and a lot of waste. And when I'm at my computer, I get jittery, so their feet's like shaking up and down, and they have to use the restroom a lot. So it's not ideal. So then instead, they can go and get a pack of gum, which will cost them $3, and there's 12 servings, and that's them chewing the gum. And instead, they're able to work and like not have all of the adverse effects.
So I love it. I think that you did a great job of showing like some of the pain points and those sorts of things. But I also think that it could be, I would like to give you a challenge, Skylar.
Yeah.
I would like you to put your little person on a bike with their
Okay.
cup of coffee and it's spilling all over them. And the context is they were up all night last night doing whatever they were doing. And so they're tired, they're riding their bike, they want something to keep them awake and for focus. Like maybe it splashes all over them, then they got
Yeah,
this.
I think like a bus or some sort of like communal traveling. So maybe not like a bike, because I feel like some people might be like, that might be not their traditional like every morning kind of situation, but maybe like in a car traveling instead of just like picking up the coffee.
Yep. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I think that you could do it in a variety. I think what you did is great. And it shows the pain points of the one journey, like the going to the bathroom more, the jitteriness. I like the little legs. And then, and then you have the focused, you have that other version of things.
Yeah.
So I really like that. I think you've done a great job. But I do think it would be fun to play around with different scenarios. Like really, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Who else? Diana, I am like dying to see your stick figures with crazy hair. Can you please, are you able to show us yours or are you not? I guess I'm just gonna have to wait till she submits it. So Shonna, oh, she's driving. Yes, please don't do stick figures while you're driving. I beg of you. No, you're fine. Don't even text, please stop. We know you're here now. Thank you. So anyway, Shonna, just to let you know what Diana's is she has a service where where when busy women are traveling and they need their hair done multiple times when they are at their travel destination, she comes to them so that they can like still do their work stuff while they're waiting. They don't have to add something else into their crazy schedule. And she takes care of their hair and styling it for them so that they can have that taken off their plate and have that consistency throughout their visit. I hope I did a decent job, Diana, of describing it. If not, don't text it. You can just tell me later. But anyway, oh, there, we got a thumbs up. So yeah, that's why I'm like, I want to see the crazy hair and like the clock and whatever else, is part of that story. All right. I don't, Renard sent his to me. Renard, can you show yours? Are you comfortable showing yours? Is there any way to show it? All right. And Jatara.
Sorry, I'm driving.
Oh,
Okay. Getting
Yep.
this on. Sorry.
Okay. So we're not going to show anymore because watch Jatara is probably driving too. So, okay. For these, you guys did a great job. Like I said before, I sent you all a compilation of your assignments so far. A lot of these are pieces that Shonna is going to need, like your personas, things like that. So we really need you to go back, fill in any blanks, and give us the latest, greatest version with the information that you have now. So this is going to be really important when you start to work with her, and you're going to have to use this to build those prototypes that we're going to talk about next week that are going to start to bring in a little more fidelity and also break it down in more specific steps. So for these last 15 minutes, we are going to just have it be work time. So look at that, review what assignments you've done, what's missing, and pick something and start working on it and filling it out. Do a better job than you previously did, or if it's missing, start working on it and getting it in. So, and you can email me any assignments that you're missing, and I will add them to the compilation. We'll make them all look pretty before we give it off to Shonna. But one thing I did also want to mention with the assignments, when you're doing your affinity mapping, if you just gave a bunch of those individual items on sticky notes, those individual knowledge points from your interview subjects, and it says participant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know that that was in the template, but we don't want those participants up at the top. We want to get rid of those stickies, those headers, and we want to start grouping them according to likeness, because the affinity mapping. So we want to cluster them according to what natural groups they fall into. So. All right, so the next 15 minutes is just work time. If anyone has any questions at all about what you're doing, about your assignment, just let us know. You have RJ, you have me. We will help you with whatever we can help you in this 15 minutes, or we can help you outside of it. You know, over the next few days, we can help you get caught up on your assignments. Remember, it is about to really pick up. If you felt like the pace was fast already, it is about to fly. So this next week is prototypes, and then it's like, whoo, you're off. So keep that in mind.
I had one question about the Miro sheets that you were referring to, I guess.
Mhm.
When you say, are you talking about the like how might we ones?
So there's the how might we's
Yeah,
that can just be a bunch of different brainstorming and ideas.
yeah.
And then, but that shouldn't have participant 1, 2, 3. You don't need that. You can just toss that part.
Okay.
Same with the affinity mapping. If that's up at the top, you can just toss that
Okay.
too.
Thank
RJ,
you.
was I talking too fast? You got the slow down.
I don't even know how I did that. I'm taking it off, trying to at least.
All right, I told you guys Dr. Wanda Eugene might be joining us. Who would like to share? I would love for you guys to show your storyboards. Linda, do you want to show yours again? Linda's without sound tonight, so this is why storyboards are good tools. I'll pull it back just a little bit. Okay, so we see the hurricane coming and it blows the roof off, and then the water crashes into the house, and then the other house underneath, oh, the water goes under it and the wind goes up and below and the house stays intact. So, oh boy, Linda, I don't know if I can do this one. We got it on gallery view. Hang on. It's too small for me to see. Sorry, Linda, you're gonna have to send it. Paul, would you do your storyboard for Wanda, please? Are you there? Or Skylar?
Hi, yeah, I can show mine. So basically, I got mine like pictograph pane by pane. So it's a comparison. So it's like somebody's going to purchase coffee and I drew the extra one. So we've got them driving and it spills all over them. And so they have to go and they throw it away and there's like a lot of waste with it. And instead, they have a lot of jitters at work and they increase their frequency of using the restroom. And so instead, they could have gum that is cheaper and has a much more calming effect. It's convenient and fits in their pocket, and they have a much easier time at work. So,
You want to give your thoughts, Wanda?
I think that was really good. Yeah, you see the problem, like how they come to the solution, the whole flow. It was good. Great job, Skylar.
thank you.
Paul, are you back? Are you willing to share? Paul had a great one. And Reynard emailed his.
All right, sorry, did you mention my name?
Yeah. Oh, can you, Dr. Wanda Eugene joined? Do you mind showing us showing her your storyboard again? I'd love for her to see it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go through. I mean, it starts from here, going over and zigzag. But yeah, so it starts off with a student talking to his mom about, "Mom, I just don't get math." The mother asks, "What are you not understanding?" Her son replies, "My teacher just doesn't make math understandable. He's boring, and we don't have fun." The mother replies, "What do you need instead? How could I help you, son?" Son replies, "I'll be fine. I'll just be on YouTube, utilizing YouTube again for my work. It's okay. I just wish I had a teacher that could explain things where I could understand them." Then the mother comes across like this Facebook ad or whatnot to be my site. She says, "Wow, I think my son will like this, Mr. Jackson." Mother replies, "Hey son, I just met this incredible man named Mr. Jackson. He's a former D1 athlete and a current math teacher who started his own business teaching his students math and mentorship." Wait, Mr. Jackson? The guy who played with Jonathan Taylor? Yeah, I would like to meet him. And that's how I conclude. Yeah. And then I have notes that Katie told me about how I should just make like what makes my teaching style from, I guess, what I would like to advertise about what I need to do to stand out and making math fun, etc.
Awesome. Awesome. I can definitely see the flow of the story. I'm not sure. It looks like you took your scenarios and added the images next to it. So if like which is, yeah, that added the storyboard images next to it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Good job.
Thank you.
And then we have uh, we have and Reynard who are driving. Reynard, like I said, emailed his. And then Jatara's just listening in too. So, well, everybody, we are pretty much at the end. Does anyone have any last questions before we close it down for the night? We do want to see your storyboards, so please email them in to us. And please also, like I said, at that completion of your assignments, and if there's anything that needs updating or any missing holes, please send those in as soon as possible. It is going to pick up very soon. And so it's gonna, if you thought it was fast before, it is really going to speed up. Any questions before we close down for the night? All right, well, hopefully that means that I will see some amazing storyboards, that RJ, Wanda, and I will all see some amazing storyboards come in. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend, and I will see you next Monday, and we will continue our prototyping next week. So, and then hopefully you guys will do a great enough job that by the end of next week, we can start to connect you with Shonna and start getting your MVPs on their way. So, exciting things to look forward to. Have a great night, and I will see you guys next week. Bye,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Katie, can I talk with you for
Good
a
night,
second?
everyone. Bye.
Good night, everyone. Nice meeting everyone.